from the top of the town at 715 Main Street in historic Deadwood. It's time for another episode of the DTC Blow and Smoke Podcast. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Deadwood Tobacco Company Blow and Smoke Podcast. I'm your host, Eye Candy Randy. See, she didn't even laugh. She didn't laugh at that.
Didn't.
Told you, it's going to stick. Pierce gave me that nickname. What do you think?
Eye Candy Randy?
Yep, Eye Candy Randy.
I love it.
Perfect. That's what I thought. That's Ethan behind the board over there mixing and mastering.
Yes.
And joining us today, all the way from the Great White North, Spuds McKenzie territory. No, the Brothers McKenzie. Spuds is from Milwaukee.
That's right.
Right. It's Allison LaFord. Welcome, Allison.
Thank you, Randy Candy.
And you get on the podcast mostly because of this.
Woo!
She brought treats. Lots and lots of treats.
Nuts.
Does Bill know that these are here?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll try to hide the second barrel from him so they can't find it. Allison is no stranger to Deadwood Tobacco, and actually a lot of you probably have had the opportunity to visit with her and have a cigar down at the old shop. Just tell us a little bit, for those that don't know, how did you get involved in DTC and meet Bill and Jody and all that stuff?
Oh, gosh. That was years ago. Mm-hmm. It all started.
It was a dark and stormy night.
Years ago.
It was.
In a land far away. My fiance, Mitch, was like, I need to pick up some cigarettes. And he took me to Deadwood Tobacco, the old company. Mm-hmm. And we walked down the stairs, and I walked in the humidor. And I was like, what? This is amazing. And I just grabbed a few cigars because I liked the bands. Mm-hmm. And I got back to the campsite and started smoking. And I was like, why do people do drugs? These are wonderful.
And this is during Raleigh, probably a decade ago?
Oh, yeah. Easy.
Yeah.
Easy.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Been around that long.
Yep.
So you knew Ethan when he did not have gray hair.
Ethan's like, shut up.
It happens, right?
It
what
works.
are you going to do?
It works, Ethan.
Yeah. Thank you.
And so then just were a random customer, huh? And then over time, you grew to be friends with the CEO and Wild Bill.
Yes. I used to come down, and Mitch would drop me off, and I would just go in and sit in the humidor with Bill and Fabian. I'd just sit there and listen to them talk about cigars, mm-hmm. and I loved it, and I'd just soak it all in. Mm-hmm. I'd go back to Little Canada, little smoke shop we had there, and I'd start talking to our guy, and I'd be like, I could probably work for you on Saturdays. When I'm off, not teaching.
But you love cigars. You smoked cigars. That was your deal.
That was I fell in love with it like in my 40s, and it just stuck. Yeah. So, yeah. So
was your first cigar at DTC, or your first that's just premium cigar that kind of got you interested in it? It was
my first cigar at DTC.
Really?
Yep. I never smoked before ever.
Not cigarettes,
in my life.
nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah.
And I just, like I said, got back to the campsite and was just like. My first cigar was like that place between dreaming and awake. And I was just, why do people do drugs? This is amazing. And it stuck, and I've done it ever since.
Very nice.
Yeah. I used to sit down in the chair, and I'd get lower and lower and lower, and people would eventually walk in and be like, can I have what she's having?
Okay, did you start with sweetened cigars? Did you start with traditional stuff?
I did. I started with the Sweet Jane.
Yeah, mm-hmm. yeah.
And it was my favorite cigar for at least a couple of years. Mm-hmm. Because like I said, I never smoked anything before ever.
Yeah.
And
those have been out since 2006, so
even longer than 10 years.
People are just discovering it still. So
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I'd sit there and smoke it, and I came back the next year, and Mitch was in some tattoo parlor getting a tattoo, and I walked up to the lady with the cigar, and I'm like, hey, could you put this on my back? Now, keep in mind, I don't have any tattoos. I've never gotten a tattoo. Had no interest in getting a tattoo. But he's sitting there. I'm there. And she's like, yeah, sure. So I sit down in the chair and take my shirt off. And he's looking at me. And I'm like,
You just felt it. You're just like, I'm going to put this on my body.
I'm getting it. So yeah, I've gotten the tattoos I do have are all cigars I loved and fell in love with. And for me now, and that's what I'll put. I only put them on my back.
Yeah.
And they'll just be cigar labels. And it's,
I mean,
for me.
if you're willing to put a cigar on your body, that speaks to a level of passion, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
I would have to say so.
Yeah.
And for me now, more than the cigar itself, because my palate has changed. I like different cigars.
Yeah.
But for me now, to me, they're memory.
Sure.
They're a great piece of history to
Right.
me, to how I fell in love with tobacco, and to the great friends I've made.
So you said that after that you went back and had a little smoke shop in your town in Canada. So did you actually start working in cigars?
I did. I worked, and I just work on Saturdays because I taught Monday to Friday, and I worked Saturdays, and he'd take me on we'd have like little whiskey nights and golf courses I could go and work, and yeah, it was like my fun job. One job was all about kids. The next job, they couldn't even come in the store.
There we got the first one. Say that word again. ABOUT.
About. I'm very phonetic.
You almost got there. Almost got there. And then there was a time when I first met you. Granted, years after you started coming to the shop. It's probably been like 3-4 years ago.
Yep.
And Wild Bill's down there, and I was just a customer. Same thing. Started smoking sweet cigars. Didn't really have a refined palate yet. And you were down there, and like this is what did he call you? He didn't say the Canada girl. What did he call you?
The Canuck.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's exactly
I'm
what
the
it was.
Canuck.
What happens.
The Canuck, yeah. And you were down there quite a bit, vacationing and stuff like that. And there was a point in time where Wild Bill had hoped that you would be able to join us, but things got in the way.
They're called borders.
Called lawyers.
Yeah.
Lawyers and borders. So Allison was going to be one of the team members.
Yes, that was the plan. That would have been the dream job. When people say living the dream, to me, that's working in a cigar bar.
We tried hard. I mean,
Yep.
this was a hard push to get you to come down.
Yep.
Yeah.
We tried everything. Lawyers, I even have indigenous ancestry. I do have a Métis card, but I'm not quite 50%. So that didn't work either. And that was a lot of loops for me to jump through to get. And I know my family history right back to the 1600s. So
I mean, whatever helps, right?
yeah, whatever.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
At one point, I said, if you could like drive down to Mexico and just let me know, I'll pick you up, right? I mean, that would have been the easier take. Just swim the Rio Grande, and I'll pick you up, and then we'll bring you up to South Dakota.
Yep.
And I remember that so vividly because for, what was it, like a year and a half, 2 years, the borders were closed. Who would have thought that the borders would have been closed?
Yep.
And for me, up in Canada as a teacher, I lost my job for more than half a year, a couple of times. And so for me, I was just completely stressed out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because,
if you're going to bring in 10 million people in 4 years, what's one more?
Exactly. That's what
You know
I
what
was
I'm saying?
thinking.
Especially the one that we want. So
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm educated.
Yeah.
She already speaks English. I mean, so it's like,
I mean, yeah, you could, you know what? We'll edit this part out on the air, so there's no evidence. But we could just call up Christian, and you can, fly down.
Yeah.
And then he can pick you up in Honduras.
Yeah.
And then take you back to Miami, and ta-da, you're here.
yeah.
That would have worked too.
I don't think she cuts meat, but she does smoke a cigar. So it's like,
There you go. Perfect.
speaks English. Let's just go for it.
Well, yeah, I remember that Bill was going back and forth and couldn't get you up here. So what brings you to town now? Just a little vacation?
Sorry.
That's all right. There's
Yes.
another one. Sorry. We're getting them. We're going to get them.
You're going to get a whole bunch. Son of a sausage. Yeah, we're just up here on vacation. I got myself a new little job because I didn't want to teach anymore. So I wasn't down for a while because I didn't feel like I could take time off and just saved up my days. So we're coming back for the rally. And right now in Canada, it's May long weekend. So I took 2 extra days off, and we drove down, and we'll stay till Monday.
And are you still slinging cigars, or is that just now a pastime, hobby, something that you enjoy doing?
For me, it's just a pastime. I don't work in the cigar shop up there anymore, and that's only because the laws up in Canada for cigar tobacco. See these wonderful bands you guys all have?
Yes.
We don't have them anymore in Canada.
They took your bands away.
They took our bands away. And
Do they take them off, or do they cover them like they do in Australia?
No, and that depends on the house. If the house decides to put it underneath a puke green band, then they do, and trust me, all the cigar people are more than grateful and thankful. But some of them don't, because it's another extra cost. They're like, well, I'm already having to ban it, and they just put on a green band and not their beautiful
Gotcha.
band.
Yep. That would make sense for the exports up in Canada. There is one good thing, because we have, Tony Canada. Look at that. Nobody gets real names when they're from up there.
Right.
Who is a contract employee down here for a mining company. And what does he say he does? He finds the gold. Like a good guy to know. He actually, last time he came to town, brought some Cubans with him, because they are not embargoed. He had some Partagas Series D, and what was the other one he brought down? He brought down a couple. Yeah. They were quite delicious.
I pulled some numbers because, this episode, part of the interest of having you on is we have a lot of smokers from Canada who have, it's not a huge drive comparatively. And so we have a lot of Canadians come down, motorcycle riders, the works. And they're two different animals to some degree, right? So a $6 cigar could easily run, I'm told, $20 to $25 Canadian. And you guys are the same as America, where taxes will vary province to province.
Yes.
Correct? But so I looked these up. Cigar Chief, I don't know if you've heard of these guys, a big online retailer. They say they've got the best prices. And they even say this: no tax, no duties, flat rate across Canada, right?
Yeah.
So this is H. Upman, a half Corona. All right, this is a little short fucker, 3.5 by 44 ring gauge, box of 25. What do you guys guess they run?
Well, you've already prefaced that they're going to be expensive.
500?
This is a 3.5 inch long cigar.
By 44, so it's basically half a cigarillo.
Yeah.
But it's a Cuban.
Yep.
Is it a Cuban?
It's a Cuban. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
This is the H. Upman Cuban. So a box of 25 is $436.
Yeah, I was right.
All right.
500. Yeah.
Trinidad. This is their 4 3/8 by 40 box of 24, $877. Those are mini smokes, you guys. I'm doing Toros, right?
Right.
So I'm like twice the cigar.
And that's Cigar Chief, and they can distribute across Canada only because they're most likely on res or reserve land or run by an indigenous nation.
Right. It's all the loopholes.
Yeah. So they don't have to pay, and they shouldn't have to pay the taxes, in my opinion. So that's good.
Did you happen to pull Partagas Series D?
I didn't do Partagas Series D, but if you want just a regular size cigar, I'm not sure. This is a
that's an 800
5 7/8 by 54. This is a Hoya de Monterey box of 25, $1,212. And so what they're saying is these are no taxes, no duties.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you compare straight up to cigars that our customers will be familiar with, this is what's interesting. A Padron 3000 Maduro. We'll sell it for $14. It's $15.50. For a 64 Exclusivo, we would sell for $22. They're at $25.
And that is with the 22 that he just referenced. That's including 35% South Dakota tobacco tax.
Yeah.
So if you go next door to Minnesota,
Yeah.
you're going to save another 35%.
So Canada's obviously got to have some huge import duties, and then the prices I gave you on the Cubans were not. That's not extra Cuban tax. So fascinating, right?
What's the cigar social aspect up there? Do you have? You said you worked in a smoke shop. Do you have traditional smoke shops? Like, we're a little bit different than most that I visited. Do you have private clubs? Kind of a mix?
Nope, and that was one of the big laws that came down. So we'll just take her from the top. The gentleman I used to work for had him and his dad had 6 shops, and they'd have like a cigar den like this. They'd have a cigar kiosk in the mall, and they had like 3 or 4 shops scattered throughout Regina. One of the first major laws that came down.
6 shops in Regina.
In Regina alone.
Holy cow!
Yeah, and when the first law came down, basically saying that people couldn't see the tobacco.
Yeah.
children couldn't see the tobacco, so that took away his cigar kiosk. Then you have to kind of like black out your windows. Then the other laws came down where you couldn't smoke in a public or even a business place. So that shut down his cigar bar and a couple more of his stores. He has one store left.
Jeez, is this a cigar shop or a brothel?
Yeah, right? It's a cigar shop. Yeah, and when the band law came down, he was worried, and he was justifiably worried that a lot of the houses wouldn't sell anymore because, again, it's an extra expense to the house.
Sure.
So he was
That's
worried that
crazy.
he'd lose half of his product. He's like, I'm going to lose my business.
Yep.
And people, you get some of the haters, and they're like, well, I don't care if you lose your business. But that would, again, make other people feel bad for him because he's like, no, that's not right either.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like if you
See,
don't,
and this is my chief concern: is cigars are supposed to be for everybody, right? The average working man who's slugging it out on the line or manual labor should be able to come home and enjoy a cigar.
Yep.
But nanny state regulations, taxation, duties, all of that stuff has tended to take this market that should be for everyone and make them for the rich, which the thing that we enjoy so much, right? You inevitably have now created a huge barrier to the average person and their affordability. And you've also done that with these regulations where you just described it. A business owner can't afford to be in business. You can't afford to have. You're eliminating half of your inventory because people can't afford it.
Right.
It's just catastrophic, and so tobacconists are disappearing, and you've priced people out of something that is one of the most enjoyable, I would say, things in life.
And one of the longest tenured leisure activities. What Bill always preaches when we're here, it's not a habit, it's not a vice, it is a lifestyle.
it's a lifestyle.
Yeah,
Yep.
and that's exactly what it is, which makes me feel better. I mean, those horrible numbers, Ethan, but to know that you can walk into our humidor here, and off the top of my head, I think our cheapest cigar would be a little cigarillo. I believe it's a Coralita for like $2.50.
Yep.
And then I think our most expensive current cigar, not always the best now, low 40s. Probably the CLE 50 by 10 because it's a monster stick for like $42.
Yeah.
And we've got everything in between.
And when we did our history of tobacco, that's what kind of floored me in doing the research. This is not a new game. This has happened since the beginning of tobacco. Governments have always tried to get involved. They've always tried to, They were making a huge, what did we say? 30% of the U.S. Treasury was coming in tobacco taxation.
Yep.
And everyone who was purchasing or selling was doing everything they could to get around it.
And despite the fact, all that stuff, and we did a podcast with Brad. He's kind of our local historian, history buff, well-read in a number of different things. He did a deep dive into tobacco, and he and Ethan and I were on that podcast, and we found old pictures of Deadwood, 1876, dated from the earliest days.
Yeah.
And the very first store, it wasn't a hotel, it wasn't mining supplies, it wasn't a brothel, it was cigars, pipe tobacco, liquor. Number one, the very, very first store.
Goes back to the beginning, man.
And I even found one the other day that was shared on an Instagram page called Deadwood History Win, 1940s, downtown Deadwood.
Yeah.
Same thing. Very first building you see, I can't remember the first one, but it was a drugstore, and it said something, it said drugs, big, and the next word was cigars. So it's been part of Deadwood history since Deadwood started, and it still is. We have survived, and I don't know the gap between when Vaughn started Deadwood Tobacco all those years ago and now, but it's one of those things that's been around forever.
Yeah, we say it all the time, man. Tobacco is an American story. It's an American product, and you can chronicle the history of the Americas through the story of tobacco.
Very good. So back to Allison's journey. I love it when Ethan gets on his soapbox.
Sorry,
I love
man.
it. I love
Sorry.
it. It's all good. It's all good.
So then you come back and forth. You spend a little time here. You said you have a new gig. What line of work are you in now?
Oh, it's real simple, actually. I just couldn't teach anymore.
OnlyFans?
I couldn't teach anymore. I wish. I'd be making bank. Open up my own damn shop. No, I just got myself a nice, simple little receptionist job with one of a major company in Canada, Brand. And I love it because it's consistent. I've made some nice friends. So far, it's a really good company to work for. Their Christmas party was off the hook. Really nice. And my shift, this is the best part, 4 a.m. to noon.
Ooh, there you go. I mean, the 4 a.m. I don't really like, but the noon, that's very good.
I'm off at noon. So guess what I do in my backyard?
But how are you doing at 4 a.m., man? Holy cow.
I'm up anyway.
Holy cow.
Wow.
You know, I go to bed at 8:30.
I mean, it's dark half the year up in Canada anyway.
Exactly.
Right? So,
Exactly.
Yeah,
might as
pretty
well.
much.
I'm good.
Nice.
Yeah.
And so then when you were teaching, what did you teach?
I could teach from kindergarten to grade 12. I taught kindergarten to grade 8 mostly, and I went around to different schools, which is really nice. I was a substitute teacher for most of my career, and that differs up in Canada because still in Canada you need the degree.
Sure.
So I still had the degree, which was nice. I like teaching everything, and sometimes I get to teach just math, sciences. I did get to teach gym and art once. That was lots of fun.
Very good.
Yeah.
Dodgeball.
Oh, dodgeball up the Yahoo.
Oh, that's what we should do. We should do a dodgeball league.
Raise money, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
raise
yeah.
money.
Yeah, exactly. So you did say that your tastes have changed in cigars from the aromatic and sweets, which is a typical pattern that we've seen. Actually, I can't think of, Ethan, do you know anyone who has started in traditionals and then fell in love with the aromatics? I know we've got Mr. Motherfucker, who is strictly still on the sweets, which is perfectly fine.
Yeah, it tends to work the other way, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're going to jump into now, if Ethan is ready,
Yeah,
3
I'm ready.
questions that we have for you. There's more to come, too, but this is Alison Lefort. How's
Le
that?
Forte.
Lefort. Almost like Belle Fourche. We call this segment a quick smoke with, and we're going to call it a quick smoke with Canada. So typically when we ask this question, it's either of a team member or a cigar rep or manufacturer or owner, and we ask them about their own line, but we're going to give you latitude here.
Oh, shite.
What is, if you can have just one cigar for the rest of your life, the only one you can have, which one are you going to smoke? Usually we ask from our humidor, which makes it easy on our staff.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
One cigar forever?
Yeah.
Oh, my Lord. Well, it would have to be from the Padron family.
Okay.
Off just... if
A
you're gonna
chip
make me-
off of Bill's old block right
if
there.
you're going to
Yeah.
make me pick one, which is just ludicrous. It's like picking one partner. I'm kidding. Anyway, it would be a Padron. And that's mostly because I like a Puro for most of...
Sure.
and I just find that they seem to taste richer, creamier, more consistent. And Padron has done a wonderful job on Nicaragua, which I love. So it would have to be a Padron.
Yeah.
Yep. Do you have a specific line that you like? The 64s, 26s, or just...
Well, the 26th that marked his 75th birthday are pretty stellar. But even the 3,000, 5,000, 7,000.
Just the regular line. Perfect.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Nope.
Next question. Quick smoke with Canada. What is your holy grail cigar? Whether it's something you've only read about, something that's super exclusive or rare or expensive, what's the one out there that you just want to go try one time?
I've already tried it. but
Uh-oh.
Is that okay?
Sure, yeah. Yeah.
And oddly enough, it is a Cuban. It's the Partagas Maduro, and I just find it slightly sweeter than just the regular Partagas. And it usually comes out around Christmas. So if I'm treating myself,
There you go.
I'll get one of those.
So just out of curiosity, what is a single of that run in Canada?
Usually if I'm getting just the basic Robusto, I don't know, $80.
Just $80 a stick.
Yeah.
That's
At least.
insane. That's
Yes.
insane.
I've never put out $80.
No. Most
For
I
a
ever
cigar.
spent was like low 50s, and it was some rare version of an Opus that I just had to try.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yep.
My boss once, Jeff from Jade Smokers in Regina, Saskatchewan there, he gave me a Cohiba Vejique 54 once for Christmas. And that stick now will run you, I'm sure it's over $100.
Yep, I would imagine so. Ethan, do you remember what yours was? Remember what your Holy Grail cigars? I know mine.
I don't.
Or does it change all the time?
Yeah,
It probably changes all the
Changes.
time.
Yeah. Totally.
Mine is the Partagas Lusitania, Churchill.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. because it's Michael Jordan's cigar, and that is the only reason.
That's it.
Yep.
I love it.
Yep, that is 100%. Last question. If you could have a cigar and maybe your favorite beverage with any person in history, dead or alive, who would you choose to smoke with and why?
Oh, my Lord. This is a good question. Okay. Well, the cigar would, again, be a Padron. And we'll go with the 1926 Padron. The person I'm going to pick would be Dan Aykroyd.
Really? Oh, there you go.
I've got this thing for Dan Aykroyd. He's occasionally on my list, which is usually only a list of one because I don't want to be a slut in my imagination. So Dan Aykroyd. And
Just because he's funny.
Well, he's funny, and he loves tobacco himself.
Oh, does he?
I've read articles about him
Yeah.
in Cigar Aficionado, and he's just wonderful. I can remember he liked. What we'd have to do, though, me and Dan, we'd have to have the really great steak supper, mashed potatoes, gravy, and peas, like he likes.
There you go.
And then
This
we're
is-
going to have a
this is board-
cigar after, and it's going to be a thick ale to just sip on as we're having the cigar. And we're just going to sit there and chill.
This
That's
seems
all.
borderline stalkerish.
Oh,
Just a touch.
I don't know what it is.
Okay,
Dan Aykroyd.
but let's just review. This is anybody.
Anybody?
You could, dead or alive.
Yeah.
Yep, there you go. That's one vote for Dan Aykroyd. Put that on the poster.
Wow.
That's one
Yeah.
we didn't see
That's
coming.
strong,
I
man.
don't want
It's
to, like,
strong.
Yep,
yeah. No, I'm going to stick with it. Dan Aykroyd.
very
Okay.
good. Yeah. So and I take it since you mentioned that he's also your free pass.
It varies. Like I said, it's just a list of one, and so I have to change it sometimes depending on my mood.
Yeah.
But it's, yeah.
That reminds me of the old joke, husband and wife, and they're talking about their free pass, and she's like, "Yeah, mine would have to be Brad Pitt." And he's like, "Yeah, he's famous, good looking, yeah, all that stuff." And she's like, "Well, what's yours, honey?" And he's like, "Stacy from the supermarket."
Let's get real.
Stacy.
I got a shot with Stacey.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody aims low at that point. Realism is the key. Let's see, what else do we want to talk about? What else you got, Ethan?
Man.
What's on your worksheet over there?
So much
Well,
stuff.
I mean, you had a special segment of your own.
I do.
I think we should do that.
We're going to do this.
Okay.
Our printer is a piece of shit, so they didn't come out as well as I would want them to. So we're going to do something. No cheating over here. This is going to be, I'm going to show you pictures, and you
Nice.
tell me what this is a picture of. First, I'll show the camera right there. What is that?
It's a couch,
No. What do you call it?
a sofa.
No, what do you call it up north?
I call it a couch.
Okay, what do your country people call it?
Oh man.
They don't. Did they lie to me online?
Oh, they might have.
Yeah.
What do they call it?
Chesterfield.
That's really old.
It's really old.
So some people, like old people, might call it a Chesterfield.
Okay,
like
okay.
my grandparents might
Yep.
call it a Chesterfield.
I mean,
so good call.
it's.
Good call.
I mean, it's a type of couch, but
Yeah. All right. Well,
It's a
let's
type
see.
of couch.
The internet is.
That's why I had to ask. I was like, "What are you talking about,
Okay.
man?" It's
Oh,
a
for one.
couch.
I don't know if you can see this one very well because our printer does suck. What's this thing that goes on your roof? What do you call that?
I call those soffit and fascia.
This thing right here. This thing that runs.
yeah, specifically.
And collects all of the water. What do you call that?
I call it soffit and fascia
Not
because I have to get some for my house.
not a rain gutter. No. Or
a rain gutter.
do you call it an eaves trough?
Eaves trough. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, yeah.
There we go.
There it is.
We got one.
All
That's
right.
true. That's
We got
true.
one.
These you can't really tell. How about this? This right here. See, product placement. Nike. You now owe us $500.
Yeah.
Nice.
Can you see what that kind of is? What would you call that?
I mean, the type of shoe, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a shoe. I'd call
Yeah.
it a Nike.
A Nike.
Nike
Okay.
Air.
Okay. So not like a sneaker or a tennis shoe. No. You call it a runner.
Sure.
Yeah, sure.
Sure.
Runners.
I'm calling
All
you a
right.
runner.
All right. This is an epic fail. Well, this one didn't really.
No,
This one.
I'm losing my Canadianness.
Yeah,
Is
you
that
are.
what we're telling
This one
me?
didn't really come out. This is not me from
Just a little
5
bit higher,
months
man.
ago. A little bit higher. There we go.
That doesn't even help.
There's
Okay.
no. All right.
No.
So there's a dude right there. He's got a beer in one hand and he's got this hanging out right there. What would you call that?
I'd call that a muffin top.
Oh, that's not bad. That's
Not
not
bad.
bad. Not
Not
bad.
bad.
We were looking for in America beer belly,
Oh,
but
yeah.
they
We see
told
that
us
too.
in Canada it was a Molson mussel.
That's awesome. I'm not nearly as cool as I thought.
Apparently, I got to call out the website because they're a big fat
But
liar.
I mean, would have you heard Molson muscle? Do people say that commonly?
I haven't.
You
No.
haven't?
I haven't.
All right.
All right.
That's not. How about a parkade instead of a parking garage? Mm-hmm. Okay, I should have picked that one. Yeah. Let's see here. Ooh, I think you might have mentioned this. A 2-4.
That's a 24 case of beer.
There we go. See, I picked the wrong ones.
What do you put on your lap during dinner?
A napkin?
Okay.
Okay.
A serviette? What do
There
you
we
say?
go.
There
There we
it
go.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, all right. Throw that one away.
All right. Enough of that segment.
That might end up on the editing room floor. So what's next for Allison? I know you got a little vacation here. What else is going on? Anything exciting?
Anything exciting? I am just so happy to be here. Mm-hmm. Like I said before, even just getting across the border for quite some time was really weird. So being able to come down and
but for this time, pretty easy now. Open
yes.
again. Yep. All right.
They didn't even ask me what we did for a living. It was so funny. It was like, hey, where are you guys going? We're like, South Dakota. What are you doing? Visiting friends. You hand them their passports.
What do they call the Department of Labor up in Canada? Department of Labor?
Department of Labor.
All right. So
When you go back across the border, do you have to declare
Yes.
any tobacco products? And will they check?
Yeah, well, you always declare it. They might not check. They don't usually check.
Okay.
But if they check and you didn't declare it, you are on the list, and it's not a good one.
So we've had a bunch of Canadian visitors come down, and they have told us that they can have returned to Canada with 50 cigars apiece. Is that true as far as you know?
Yeah.
Okay. Regardless, I mean, obviously we can't sell Cubans in this country anyway, so, just 50 premium cigars per person.
Yes.
That's what I figured.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Pipe tobacco. I can't remember the grams, but
Unlike when Ethan was on a cruise and tried to get the Cubans back in the United States and didn't want to lose them, so he smoked them all.
nice.
Yeah. My wife was like, why are you taking the ribbons off, the bands? And I'm like, because they say Habana. She's like, well, what would happen? I'm like, well, I mean, maybe they would pull my passport and label me a smuggler, and right? And so she gave me that look. Is it really worth it? I'm like, yeah, it is. Right. So I was hotboxing one after the other on the deck as we pulled into Miami.
Nice.
I left them, man.
What was your favorite Cuban?
I've had a few. I would say there's a Cuban taste, man. If it's from a legit grower and you didn't buy them on the beach in Mexico, right? The authorized stuff, there is a Cuban puro taste that is great.
It is, and it's much more. I find it a much more nuanced and definitely evolves more in the first third, second third than some of the stuff that we get. Granted, there are cigars in our humidor that are even on par or better than the 3 Cubans that I've been able to smoke.
Yeah, and they've always dated the back of the box. So I mean, I'm not going down buying boxes, but they tend to push them, and they date the back because you're supposed to actually age them because they will have ammonia in them. So I'm interested to know if you buy a box, man. Do you need to let that sit, or can you crack it and smoke it?
I would say crack it, smoke it, and then smoke one 2 months later and 2 months later. And then by the time you get moving, you'll see the sweet spot. For example, one of our team members, who shall remain nameless, Grimes, has a box of our cigars. I believe it was a Corojo that year, 2021 Sturgis Rally Edition cigars.
Yep.
And holy cow. In the last 3 years, they were good to begin with, but they have really matured. They're absolutely delicious.
It's amazing, man. From when you get them in for rally and smoke them a year later, they're just so much better. So much better.
They are indeed. Not that there's anything wrong with what we have on the shelves right now. Sometimes you just come in, grab it, smoke it. It's all ready to go.
For the Cubans, if you let them sit and set, sometimes they'll get a little bit of a white mold on the outside. That used to freak me out. But honestly, it's delicious.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah, we've had people come in and especially when we moved to the new shop, because we had a bunch of inventory from companies that went out of business and things like that. But that plume on there is delicious. And then also, I had one gentleman come in one time, and it was an Illusion. A product that didn't move incredibly well, a delicious cigar. He looked at it, and he kind of looked at it, and he kind of opened the end of the cellophane a little bit, and he pushed the cigar down about an inch. He looked at the cellophane, and he goes, "How many you got left?" 8 or something. He goes, "I want them all." Because it had aged enough to color the cellophane a light brown, and it was just perfect, ready to smoke.
Yep.
So
the hard work is done, man. You're ready to smoke.
Yep. Look for that. Well, Allison, thank you very much for enduring the torture and coming in and hanging out with us. It's always fun to visit with friends of the shop and Bill and the CEO. And we look forward to having you around here for the weekend or more.
The entire weekend.
Oh, the entire weekend. It is Hops and Hogs as we record this. So there's some beer and bacon to be consumed. We'll definitely hook you up with some of ours. And thank you again for the treats. And I love the fact that you have a very good ratio of M&M's sweetness to nuts. It's going to be awesome.
I even threw in some dark chocolate with berries in there this time.
Ooh, look at that. It's going to be amazing.
It up, bitches.
See, if I brought that, man, there'd be like 2 M&Ms and the rest would be peanuts because, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm selective.
Yeah, exactly. What you share.
Yeah.
Well, that's going to do it for this special episode of the Deadwood Tobacco Company Blow and Smoke podcast. This is Allison from Canada. Behind the board, as always, is Ethan, the preacher, mixing and mastering. For the entire DTC team, make sure you like, subscribe, comment, and share. We'll have many more guests on the podcast as we move forward. Thank you very much for joining us. My name is iCandy Randy, and we will see you next time.